let's wrap this up. Jump into the final week of Mr. Legends book recommendation. Think Again by Adam Grant. I thought this was a wonderful book. We have quite a few questions here, so let's get into it. We'll start off with Black Zeus. We're gonna go in chronological order. So, in chapter 6,
quick question.
Up?
You got my video clip.
Yes, I got it. I got it ready for you, brother. I got it.
I'm tired of these niggas. I'm tired of these motherfuckers.
I got it ready.
Every week he got a media clip.
Yeah, right.
He got a media clip.
He don't want to read or type. He's like, no, I'm just gonna put up a video or a recording. You know.
Yeah.
It's an educated bastard. He can't even fucking type something up.
Hey, we're called the illiterate bastard.
Bro, I got it. There's a question that follows up with this.
I'm teasing, man.
Clip.
I'm teasing. Relax.
Go ahead and get everybody's questions so we can get them on.
All right. The first question. In chapter 7, the vaccine whisperer spoke to an apprehensive mother for an hour to get her to rethink her decision to not vaccinate her child. In our current pandemic, is it possible to apply this approach to the massive? Who wants to take a shot at Black Zeus' first question?
You know what? I would say I'm undecided. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't know if y'all follow the NBA at all with what's going on with Kyrie Irving and this other dude, Andrew Wiggins, where
didn't Andrew Wiggins get the shot?
I was about to say, because nobody really knows about Andrew Wiggins that much. But
no, they didn't really push him too hard.
Yeah,
they made it more so like, yo, these are the reasons why you should take it. Here's what the consequences are going to be. Bro, you're not a bad person one way or another. Like, that's basically what they're saying. So, I mean, it's curious to see how that plays. I mean, I know that this is a smaller scale. I kind of wish that there was a bigger sample size across sports to see if this approach actually works. Like, nobody's saying to Kyrie, nigga, you have to take it. So it's like, yo, we respect your decision. I mean, you have to take it in the sense of you can't work in the state, but you're still going to be able to be employed in some form of fashion. So, like, I think it works. I think that when people feel like they have a choice, that they're more likely to do what you're asking them to do. It's to me, it kind of seems like a different type of motivation. So, do I feel like it will work on a larger scale? I feel like more people may be inclined, more people may be willing to take the vaccine if we took this approach. But you're always going to have people who, are going to say no, one way or another. So I'm saying, I'm sorry. So I'll say it now, right? Then I send over to you. I'm saying that to say, I'm kind of up in the air with it. I just want to see. I'll feel a little bit more confident once I see how this whole Kyrie situation plays out.
Go ahead, Smith. It seems like you were eager to chime in.
No, I was going to say that was more so talk about the motivational interviewing and trying to get you're not going to be able to change somebody's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So no, this approach wouldn't work with the masses. You can try to get the masses to try to change their own mind, but you can't change their minds. And in chapter 7, he was speaking about that a lot. So he was trying to say, like, try to change their mind through asking open-ended questions, and I guess that's what they're trying to do with Kyrie. Engaging in reflective listening, and I guess that's what they're trying to do. But I don't think that works with the masses because people have already decided what they want to do. And unless you're playing on the bigger screen, rethink again, and having people to like really try to rethink. All you can do right now is just have gentle recommendations because people have decided what lane they're going to stay in. People have done their own pseudoscience, and pseudoscience is saying, well, I've been not vaccinated. I've been not getting sick. More people are getting vaccinated. So why do I need to get vaccinated? And we can sit and argue. You all know the argument because we had the argument. well, I'm not going to get vaccinated. I am going to get vaccinated. I'm not going to get vaccinated. It's not until that person, and no matter what we said to each other, we didn't change each other's mind. It wasn't until you decided that that's what you wanted to do for yourself.
Yeah, correct.
So I think that's I don't think it will work with the masses.
Yeah. To piggyback off of what Smith said, Dr. Agnew, that's his name, right? That was the doctor in which that was brought in to speak with the mother. I think the motivational thinking, it was something that he then later launched into a much larger platform. I think, will it work with the masses? Not depending on the percentage you are trying to target. It's not, you're not going to get like 100%. You might not even get 50 or 20%. You might get a small percentage of like 1%, 2% with that approach. Now, some people might deem that a success. Some people might deem that as a failure. But I think that approach is necessary. That's for sure. I think, we fall victims to our echo chambers way too often. And I feel like at least having those dialogues and having those discussions are important. And I think a lot of times when we take the approach, or some people take the approach of, well, what's your background? Are you in the science? Do you have this degree? Do you have that degree? It further turns people off, Yes. It really does, like, especially when you really, my anecdotal experience working in finance, I never ever questions people's understanding of the financial market, because I don't know really how much time you dedicate during your off time to learn certain things that's not necessarily related to your primary profession. But I do believe that the doctor's approach is one of the best approaches you could really take when discussing any controversial issue. And to really tie this in real quick was like, Smith, I watched the documentary that you recommended, Turning Point, 9/11 and the war crisis. That motivational to have, I understand in time of crisis, a lot of times you want leaders just to lead, but man, there was that one dissenting senator, Barbara Lee, who was against giving the president full authority to just make decisions, and wanting to like have these sort of motivational conversations, motivational thinking programs was necessary. I think it's important to have them. Would it change people's opinion? The vast majority, no, but it would. It's a good starting point to at least have.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you can't go one by one with each individual person and have a 1 hour conversation, not unless you have, like, let's say each one of us, knows someone and we approach it from that aspect. Like each person is vaccinated and has some sort of understanding and knowledge, and probably has read this book and understand the way to go about having this conversation. Unless there's having these interpersonal relationships and having these conversations one by one would be one tactic, but a tactic that, which is also in this book, open floor debate, done not in a heated way, not in a highly political way, but done in an intellectual way. So, personally, I like to watch some debates on YouTube. One of the recent ones I watched was with Sam Harris and who was this guy's name? I forget it right now. But basically, it's called the Great
Brett Weinstein.
No, not that one.
Not that one. Okay.
But if you watch any one of those debates and you watch the way that Harris speaks, Sam Harris doesn't speak from a point of, and he is a neuroscientist.
Yes.
He doesn't speak from a point of diminishing you or like superiority or anything like that. He's very soft-spoken. He is very, calm, cool, and collected in his delivery. He can have a little bit of charm to it, this, that, and the other. And you're willing to hear him out. And I've watched this guy in debate many a times, and they typically poll the audience before the debate and poll the audience after the debate. And many a times, a good, anywhere from 15 to like 30% of the audience switches to his side by the end of the debate. So the whole thing is like, if you can have some sort of forum like that where people can watch this on television or whatever, and see the discussion being had with someone who is knowledgeable and someone else who else is also knowledgeable about the counterpoints, because that's also important, and that can address people's, because most people, I think people have the same general questions, same general concerns, fears, so forth and so on, and if you can hit, let's say 20-30% of the population where it hits them by them listening to the conversation, I think it could have a better effect versus the whole mandating, or you're out of a job, or you can't go to a restaurant, or you can't do this, you can't do that. I will say that much.
That's been my stance the entire time. I just feel like, when those conversations are not publicly had, what you just create is silos. People are in their silos and they're just going to want to hear what they want to hear. Like what was one of the interesting things that kind of turned me around get vaccinated was, and I shared this with Black Zeus, was hearing two fairly educated people about the vaccines, discuss the vaccines. And I was just like, yo, to be honest, I was convinced by the person who's pro-vaccine, which led me to be vaccinated. And I think his
delivery was better.
And his delivery was better. So like that kind of led me to be vaccinated. It was just like, okay, like he brought strong arguments. He brought, good statistics. But I think most important, what Schubert was harping on was the delivery. And I was just like, all right, in that moment. Now, where do I stand now about booster shots? We'll talk about that in a few months. But, I think to Schubert's point is having those public discussions is very important before you start mandating things, because all it does is create further resentment and hostility about any issue.
And at the end of the day, you're still not listening to the other side. You're just saying this is how it's going to be.
Exactly.
You know what? The only tricky part was
not starting to show more interest in what the people are actually looking at. You're trying to still put your own agenda there. And that's the biggest thing with Kyrie right now. Like, nobody's upset with Kyrie because, bro, you do what you want to do. It's your money. Anybody mad at you? You know what I mean? You're making a decision by all means. And nobody's going to argue with you about it, but they're going to still try to get you to understand that, you need to be there for the team. And in order to be part of the team, you got to be vaccinated.
I think
Kelvin, last point, we'll jump into his question.
I think the tricky part about having that forum we can actually watch it is that we don't really still have I don't think we're at the point yet where we can have like a debate about how effective it is. And I think America's still trying to push that agenda where they want everybody to feel one way. It's like they're not going to be open to having opposing voices publicly. I know we kind of had a conversation a couple of weeks ago where, they might have had these conversations in private and then they all agreed on, okay, this is what the fucking message is going to be. Not saying that we can't get to that point. I just don't think we're at that point yet with this vaccine.
I don't know. I think we are at that point. I think there's enough. Like, we're not hitting our target goals for a reason. At this point, if you're not vaccinated, you're not vaccinated for a reason. And there's enough doctors and nurses and specialties out here to talk about those issues. I don't know. But let's jump into your question. Mr. Henry has me let's see.
Yeah, play the clip first.
Let me play clip.
Since niggas can't listen to it. I didn't want to send the third.
Can you guys hear it?
Yeah.
All right, let me play it. Let me pay close attention, guys, because this was important for
Smith. Get that fucking face look off your face, bro.
And Schubert, pay attention. He's looking like the disgust in his face. All right. Here we go. Ready.
If you find yourself saying anything is always good or something is never bad, you may be a member of an idea cult. Appreciating complexity reminds us that no behavior is always effective and that all cures have unintended consequences.
Okay. So
I'm listening to that shit at 3 times the speed.
1.25, bro. 1.25.
2 hours.
All right. So
it's the same speed I listen to it.
So
1.25.
after hearing that, we're going to jump into the question. So Mr. Legend's question is, in part 3, author states no behaviors are always effective and all cures have unintended consequences. Is it realistic to adhere to this absolute thinking?
I'm sorry, my short attention span today. Watching these video clips.
I just think you always effective.
Let me see. Because he also has an absolute thinking on my question, too. I'm trying to think.
No behaviors are always effective in all cases. Unintended.
I mean, I don't know. I feel that I won't say I feel, but from what I've seen, yes, everything does have unintended consequences. There's always a plus and a negative. There's always an up and a down. There's always a contradiction to everything that you do. You can't have it all. So I don't know if I would go against that or say it's necessarily absolute, other than just more of a logical reality.
Yeah, for every action, there's a reaction.
Yeah, that's just what it is. It's more descriptive than, it's not a philosophical viewpoint. It's more of what we observe. It's like if I want to be at, if the basketball game's at 2 and my son's, if the basketball game comes on TV at 2 and my son's football game is at 2:00, I can't be in both places at one time. So I have to make a sacrifice. I got to make choices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest problems that we have in our society, is that we don't want to make choices. We want to have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah, but is it making I don't want to say the correct choice, but making the choice that has I don't want to say correct consequences. Like, okay, you go into your son's, easiest way for me to put it, you go into your son's game instead of sitting there and watching TV. Seems like that would be the most effective decision. So, like, isn't doing the right thing? Like he's saying, But
here's the thing. I don't know what's going to end up happening. I can go to my son's game,
yeah,
and he could not do well or not even be played that day for some reason, and I could miss a historic, game on TV that changed the whole game. Something happened in this game that was absolutely historic, like somebody dunked the ball from the halfway line or some shit, from the 3-point line. Just, I don't know, something.
And I can understand your son not playing, but if that nigga played like trash and then the game you talked about still happened, you still wouldn't feel like it was like, dang, I made the wrong decision. I shouldn't have came to this little nigga game today.
Maybe I might feel that way, but the whole thing is, maybe in the long run, my son never even paid attention to those games. He doesn't even remember it in his older years. That game that, that daddy came to, that he sucked at when he was 10 and now he's 25. He doesn't remember that game. I mean, do you remember every single thing your parents ever did for you? Even though your parents probably cherished everything you did.
No, but like, that's the point. So like, they're doing it because they feel like it's right. Yeah. Like, I think I will remember it a lot more if they never came to anything.
If they never came to anything.
That's what I'm saying.
But the whole thing is that if they miss one thing or two, because like the reality is, like I said, you can't have it all. Any parent, me and Hakeem are both parents. And, I'm sure Hakeem can tell you from experience, you can't be there for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No matter how good of a parent you are, no matter how much you try, work comes up.
Yeah.
Life comes up. You know what I mean? You can't do it all.
Mm-hmm.
This is the whole reason why
you can't field trip with your child.
But then that comes down to making a decision that's deemed to be the effective one. Like, no, I can't make this nigga's game. Now I can't make his game because I want to sit here and watch TV, but I can't make his game because I have another obligation that's of equal importance, if not more important.
It's not so much of
Not,
but the whole
it's not
the
all
argument
like,
is not so much an obligation,
yeah.
or it's more of like the fact of you will, no matter what decision you make,
There's going to be a
with
consequence to this, and that's how I
right?
look at it. It's
That's
like,
the thing is, no
yeah,
matter what decision you make, it's gonna come with a consequence. It's not a
whether
matter
right
of
or wrong.
right or wrong.
Yeah,
It's a matter of like, what consequences are you willing to deal with?
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's like one of my friends, I was just speaking to her, and she is dating somebody that it might turn to a serious relationship, or it might turn into marriage, whatever case it is. And she's talking about like how she's always wanted to, get married, have this relationship, but she doesn't want to give up her independence as an independent woman. And I'm like, you can't have both.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't have freedom and stability. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how it works.
that is facts. Yes, man.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
That is facts. With freedom comes some hardships.
Right? Yeah, I don't think that's a I don't think you should look at that as an absolute thought. I don't think it's realistic to adhere to that rule.
I mean, there's an old fable about a dog and a wolf. The dog is living on a farm, and he sees a wolf by the gate. He goes up to the wolf, and the wolf sees him and says, "How could you live there, with the people?" And he's like, "Well, my master feeds me 3 times a day and gives me somewhere to sleep." And the wolf says, "Well, I have my freedom and I can go as I please." Now, the whole thing is, the wolf can go as he please, but he doesn't have 3 square meals a day and a warm place to sleep. The dog has 3 square meals a day and has a warm place to sleep, but he can't come and go as he please. You cannot be on both sides of the fence. It's just impossible.
I did hear about that fable. That's a good one to bring up too.
So you don't think both of those, behaviors are always effective?
It's what's effective for you.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the point.
What sacrifices are you?
No, but that's what I'm saying. His point is, he stated no behaviors are always effective. That's the part that I disagree with. Like, I don't think that's absolute.
So
it does depend on the person.
So he said no behavior is always effective.
Yeah. So the quote was, "That's what." Not if it works for you though, Shuba. Like, if you feel like you're always doing the right thing, that doesn't work for you all the time.
So the whole thing is, going back to what I was saying about the dog and the wolf, right? The dog might want to have that freedom. He might want to, go and come as he please, and not necessarily ask the master whenever he wants. It's like being married. It's like, there's times you don't want to do shit that you have to do. Go deal with your in-laws or your wife's family functions, or whatever the case is. But if you want to be with your wife, that's what you got to do.
But that's what I'm saying, and that's how it works for you. You get what I'm saying?
That's how it works for everybody.
But that's why I'm disagreeing with his quote. Like, the nigga saying no behaviors are always effective. It is. I might not want to do this shit, but this is what works for me. So,
but that is the ineffective part. Is the part that you don't want to do. That's what he's saying. But he's not saying that. What?
But in the grand scheme, bro, you do want to do it because you want this shit to work. Because if you didn't want to
do it, you just do it.
Because
that doesn't make you want to do it. You're just going through emotion.
Yeah, it doesn't make it effective. It's just that you're being obligated for whatever external circumstances.
Yes.
I don't know.
You take your losses with your gains. That's just what it is.
So that behavior
so you're locked effective. Into the. Yes, it is. It's effective and ineffective. It's effective meaning the fact of you get something of what you want, but you don't get all of what you want.
Yeah, but
that essentially is ineffective. If you're not getting everything you want,
but it doesn't. But it doesn't have to be perfect in order for it to be effective.
Yeah,
I don't think he's stating something. It has to be perfect.
He's not saying it has to be perfect.
It has to be perfect.
But he's saying that you can't get everything you want. That's what it boils down to.
Well, that makes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you, I get what you're saying, Schubert. I just feel like if you're saying, and I don't want to say happiness because I think I'll rip that shit apart too. But like, it's just say that you want to live a happy life, and you say, okay, well, that's just I'm always gonna do what's right. 100% of your life isn't going to be happy, but overall, if you're doing one thing constantly, you're that same constant effective behavior. Okay, I'm gonna do what's right. I'm gonna do what's right. I'm gonna do what's right. I have an overall happy life. Or successful. Let's say you will be successful, whatever the word is. So, it's not 100%, but majority of my shit is, so it is. Like your business is successful, Shuba. You don't do everything right, but you have certain values, and you say, okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm always on time. I'm gonna make sure I'm always doing X, Y, and Z. When you might show up on time, Shuba, nobody might show up to the gym. But that don't mean that your business ain't successful.
But the whole thing is that you're also not looking at the fact of there's times I don't want to get up in the morning, but I got to do it. Mm-hmm. There's times that I want to spend time with my family. I want to come home and have dinner with my family a lot earlier, spend some time, but I got to be at work. That is an ineffectiveness of being a business owner. I don't have a regular 9 to 5 where I can punch in and punch out. That is the ineffective part about it. Everything comes that way. If you've ever read about Buddhism and understand about the Buddha said that, the one thing that is basically, excuse me, and basically across the board is that all things suffer. All things suffer. Whether you're suffering from old age, whether you're suffering from disease, if you're suffering from poverty, suffering from being rich and no one understands you don't have that many friends, there's always suffering. And you have to learn to accept the suffering. That's how he became the Buddha, is the fact of understanding that you have to accept suffering is a part of life. Life is not this 100% effective thing. It has its downfall. It's like getting the vaccine has a 90% chance of effectiveness, but it has a 10% chance of ineffectiveness. The 10% does not diminish the 90%, but the 10% that exists.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm getting that whole absolute from. Like, yeah, the 10% exists, but overall, that shit is effective.
Yeah, so it's not absolute. To be absolute, it would be 100%.
But to say that it's not always effective, okay, I guess the absolute would be it's always not effective. Because, his thinking is, okay,
it's not always effective. There's going to be times it's not the best situation. It's not what you want to do. It's not. That's what comes with the territory. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you lose. You don't just win every game and go to the championship. It's not always effective.
Effective, yeah.
That means
you got two parents here. When you raise kids, not every decision you make is going to be what's best for the child in some instances.
I don't know. I'm you know what? I'm not saying I don't know. I'm looking at it. I think I was just looking at it differently. Where
I think you're looking at it very black and white.
It's just more like if I continue doing, I get what you're saying. Something doesn't always work. It doesn't work every time, but in the overall sense, it still works.
Yes, but no one's saying overall it doesn't. We're just saying that it's not going to work all the time, not always. Keyword, always. That is the absolute.
I'm just looking bigger picture. Like it may not work every time, but in the end, that shit ends up working.
In the overall picture, yes. But the whole thing is too many of us are looking for absolutes. This is one of the reasons. It's kind of like it's kind of like the whole
all or nothing.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. It's kind of like the discussion we had last week about how people are not okay with scientists saying, I don't know where the beginning of the universe started.
Yes.
People love absolutes. So it's easy to fill in that blank with, well, of course, Sky Daddy did it. Boom. Answer filled. Absolute, I'm good. I can go on with life now. And that's not the reality of it.
Schubert, we're an equal opportunity show. Could be Sky Mommy too.
Absolutely, Gaia could be running the shit too.
Well,
Gaia,
I don't know. There's 72.
Gaia,
There's 72 genders out there, so I don't even think you could just
Oh,
say
yeah, that's
Sky
right.
Mommy. So
that's
I'd rather leave it to Sky Creature.
Uh,
All right, let's move on to the next question, man. All right. Next question. Chapter 9, teaching students to question knowledge. Adam stated that valedictorians tend to settle within the system rather than challenge it. What does that say about our structural education? I should have said structural education system.
Hold up, repeat that.
So Adams in chapter 9.
Should have had the video clip, bro. Should have had the video clip.
Teaching students question knowledge. Adams stated that valedictorians tend to settle within the system rather than challenge it. What does that say about our structural education system?
I don't know if it says so much about the structure.
But she gave them the 1940s book, right?
Yeah.
Gave them a book from 1940s to see if they would just accept the information.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll read the question again.
Yeah. So the whole thing is.
So basically, he would just,
I get it.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is that why would you challenge a system that you're succeeding in? If you're the valedictorian, you're winning. Why would you say like, oh well, this game is not right or this game is off? I'm winning the game. You're not going to question the game.
But do you advance society and cultures when you settle within a system?
Of course not.
So I think that's the problem.
You're not pushing the line. You're not pushing the borders. You're not pushing, the boundaries. If
Correct.
You're just like, oh, this is what it is. But the whole thing is, think about what you're saying. Valedictorian is a system that says the person who has accepted our guidelines, our rules, our information without question is the best suited person, versus you rewarding, people who challenge and question and, seek out knowledge.
You know what else the trade-off is, though? A lot of geniuses weren't valedictorians.
That was the
other thing I was going to say.
That was going to be my response, Kevin.
That was going to be my next thing. But you can
go ahead and lead with that, brother.
Yeah, like a lot of, I kind of you even think about it like thinking outside of the box. A lot of valedictorians, I think he even made the statement like they were kind of like stressed or like they just like focused on getting the job done, but they don't really think outside of that box. So it's like, okay, I found this system that works, like Super was saying. Like I'm just going to stick with it. But all of the most creative people are the ones who, don't necessarily follow the book per se. Even, you think about that the athlete, the basketball player, the white boy can dribble the correct way, footwork could be on point and he still won't be as good as the dude who's just naturally gifted. So I mean, everybody fits into their own niche. The valedictorian might be book smart, and they can never be street smart. He might be able to crunch numbers, but he can't think of the catchy jingle for, the next whatever. So I think that's sort of like the give and take of the trade-off.
And this kind of goes back to what we were saying about the gifted and talented students earlier. Just because you're in the gifted talent program doesn't mean that you're going to be, the next Jeff Bezos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, because I was looking up, current CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. When you look at world leaders, hardly, any of them were valedictorians. They graduated on top of their class, but they weren't valedictorians. And like for me, this question is really more so like, should we even have that as accolade to even give students? Because it seems as though that those type of students, while it's great to give them their merits in that moment, they don't necessarily progress society. And it just made me think, like, should we do away with the concept of a valedictorian, where we acknowledge someone's ability to fall within the system, because clearly we don't acknowledge them in society because they don't do anything for society. They contribute to it in the sense of like keeping the machine going, but like they don't, push society forward like a Jeff Bezos or Richard Branson or like any of these CEOs of Fortune 500 companies or founders in Silicon Valley. A lot of them are freaking college dropouts.
Mm-hmm. Because they're thinking about pushing what they got their ideas forward. They're not thinking about assimilating into, what the school got going on. I don't know about. Also, I don't know if they do away with it. It's just based off of that GPA and how hard you work for those 4 years. But I would like to know how many valedictorians also have been, like you said, influential in the society.
Yeah.
Because, people be valedictorians, but then, I like all the valedictorians that were ahead of me in my classes. I don't know what the fuck they're doing now.
Exactly. Exactly.
How successful they've become.
So the whole thing is that, once again, this goes back to the last book we were talking about that we were reading, and what was it? How to Boss Up, and we were talking about how people make excuses and how people, expect to be coddled in the American, the coddling of America, when the whole system is based on you being reliant on the system instead of you being an independent thinker, an individual. It's all being you're a drone.
Yes.
You're a drone in the beehive.
Yes.
Right? You're just a drone in the beehive.
You just became the best robot.
The system just like rewards you to being a drone in the system, and anybody that questions it, we cancel them. That's what we reward
them. Jeff Bezos is heavily rewarded.
No. I'm saying when we have a different way of thought in our society, we cancel that person publicly. Even if we don't agree with them, we don't challenge their idea. We destroy the person.
Well, when Reed Hastings came up with Netflix,
No. Fall back. You're not following me.
Okay. But you're talking from a social justice, aspect.
But your thought process. Here's the thing: you got to understand. The Jeff Bezos, the what's going on from Netflix, all these other people, they're not on the big stage that everybody sees. All right. Everybody
people thought negatively about Netflix. I remember Kelvin when he first joined.
Let me finish my thought.
Okay.
Most people aren't considering what's going on in the boardroom. Most people haven't done the research on COVID as many people that know about this basketball player who's given up his contract. All right. They follow that better than they've actually done any research them fucking selves on COVID and the vaccine and how it works and all that. That's what people pay attention to. All right. So when people see that and they see like a Kevin Hart or a Dave Chappelle getting canceled, what it does, it teaches you stay in line. It teaches you not to think for yourself, not to question the system. And that translates in everything else you do. You follow me?
I see what you're saying. Like when people see the punishment for those who buck the system, they tend to stay in line. But I don't know. I'm thinking differently in regards to that. But in regards to what you're trying to come at, yes, there are that sort of consequence tend to happen a lot where people who tend to think outside of the box, the backlash is so severe that it causes this sort of, defense mechanism just to stay within the system. I got it. But when we talk about the likes of entrepreneurs of the Reed Hastings or the Jeff Bezos or the Richard Branson, I think they've received enough criticism to buck the system and they flourished. And I'm just saying, like, we have enough examples, just sticking to the question, we have enough examples of people who are not valedictorians, not falling within the system, and they're highly successful. So like, why is it that our school system still promotes the concept of striving to be a valedictorian? Like, why don't we encourage more students to, like, yes, you want to excel academically, but like you also want to cultivate thinking outside of the box?
Because our entire education system was based on putting people into the system as part of the workforce. It was never designed for you to think for yourself and be an individual.
That's the answer.
Or be creative.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's the answer.
The whole thing is, we are not allowed to be individuals and think for ourselves, question or challenge anything, whether it be academic, social, economic, neighborhood wise, like, none of that. Like, think about it. If you buy a house, we're all homeowners, right? If you decide to paint your house yellow with orange polka dots and this, you have that legal right. But there's a social, I don't want to say rule, but kind of a social a shame, if you will, if you bring down the property value with your ugly house.
Yes.
Think about that. You own that house, you pay the bills in that motherfucker, and you can't paint it whatever color you want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the pushback on that is your ugly house could deter people if I want to sell my house from wanting to purchase.
Why does it matter on your house? This is my house.
Because they might think that you're the knucklehead on the block. And if I'm trying to sell my house, a potential buyer might say, "Yo, I don't want to deal with that shit."
Exactly.
So therefore, you devalue my potential selling.
But you're not buying my house. You're buying
I'm not buying
house.
Correct. But it's just,
you see, you're falling into the system. You're supporting the system right now.
I'm not falling into the system.
You're not thinking outside the box and saying, I'm not buying the house across the street.
But I'm telling you the ramifications in regards to like what your actions will do, like in regards to like how it impacts me as someone who's trying to sell my house on that same block.
But it shouldn't impact you. Is the point. It shouldn't impact you. It should impact the person that's buying your house.
I get what you're saying. Hold on, you said you gave us till 11, but all right, real quick.
You just said I wasn't Mr. 1045
anymore. You Mr. Legend because you upgraded to 11.
No, that was that 1 week. I got 4 more minutes. I gotta go grocery shopping.
Okay,
go ahead. Yeah.
So what's your real quick? What's your rating and score for this book? Pros and cons.
Out of 5.
It's always out of 5.
I'm gonna go 4. I did like the fact that you had the one constant theme of rethinking, obviously, but each chapter, for the most part, gave you something different to rethink about. Whether it was the vaccine, whether it was education, whether it was whatever, it's just certain, your job or your career. It was just that it gave you different aspects. Con, I nigga want me to think, and he's talking about no fucking one way is always effective. I think it's stupid. Nah, other than that, this is all. I'm not gonna lie, man. It's hard for me to give nonfiction books 5 out of 5 out. And I'm letting y'all know right now, just a little preview. I got 3 fiction books lined up for my next 3
You know
books.
this. You've been saying that for like the past. We know.
I'm just trying to give y'all a heads up. So ain't nobody complaining.
All right, we know about your foot fetish. All right, enough.
I'll let y'all know.
All right. Let's resume. Smith, you have any more to add to that question, or you just want to jump into yours?
Oh no, you can go into the next question.
All right. How much rethinking is too much, and when should you trust your intuition versus test your intuition?
I go first since I'm about to
Yes, you can go first, Mr. Legend. Nah, you missed the 1045 now.
I'm cool with that. 1050, but I'm missing 1050. Shit, I think you need to trust your instinct.
He should be 1 minute man. Sorry.
We ain't done.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right. If it's a situation where was like an emergency, you got to think on your feet. That's the only stance where, you need to just go with your intuition right off the jump. I don't know. I think it might have been the first week when we was talking about this, where, I'm trying to sort of think things through before I act or react. So unless it's a situation where, I have to give an answer right then and there, or it's an emergency where I have to act right then and there, then, you want to make sure that you stick with your intuition, which, can also be a gift and a curse, because then you're not really practicing using your intuition if you're always fucking thinking that shit through. But in those instances where it's like an emergency, you got to think on your feet, you got to react right then and there. Those are probably the only situations where I can say I'm using that intuition.
Okay. I should have trusted my intuition on Friday instead of testing that shit with your ass.
You did trust your intuition. That's why you took your ass to Lit 21 in the first place.
Oh, no. And then I tested it after, you see? I should have trusted
could y'all hold that argument later?
Yeah, all right, guys. See, well, he ain't got no choice now because it's 10:50. So now you got to wait till later.
No, that was me answering that question.
He dropped off. I think too much rethinking comes when you are not necessarily taking any action, where you're constantly just stagnant. It's like having that. I think Schubert brought it up before, but I clearly hear my wife say this all this time: analysis by paralysis.
By paralysis.
Yeah, and you just, you're constantly just thinking about all the consequences, all the unintended actions that might come from your actions, and it's just like you just completely don't do anything. You're weighing all the pros and cons, and it's just like, what have you accomplished during that entire time? So I think that's where too much thinking comes in. And when should you trust your intuition versus test your intuition? That's a good one. You got to probably look at past results. Like if you known to, go to the bar and hook up with big girls, maybe the next bar is not for you. You probably got to look at your past results and say, every time I go to the bar, I end up with Big Shirley. You might have to really say, like, you know what, my intuition is telling me, like, I don't have a successful rate going to bars past 10 o'clock.
Maybe I should go to the skinny people bar.
Maybe you go to the movies instead of to the bar. That's when you test your intuition.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say I agree with Kel and Pratt, because with Kel, like I was in kind of in the same scenario where I'm like, intuition is great when you don't have time to think. You just have to kind of go. And I completely agree with Pratt, where paralysis by analysis, leaves you, sitting there thinking, and not taking any action. But at the end of the day, like we said, there is no always 100% effective decision. There's always going to be a cost to your decision. There's not going to be any decision you're going to be like, oh, that was 100% win-win. It's going to come with it's nothing is gained without sacrifice. It's the yin and the yang. So I mean, as far as practicing your intuition, it's not something I don't think you can really practice. I think it's one of those things that kind of comes into play when it comes into play. It's like, you're not saying, oh, let me practice, shooing a fly away until a fly comes buzzing by your ear. You're like, by instinct, you kick in and shoot the fly away from your ear. You don't practice that, or let me work on that. If you did, it wouldn't be instinct. It wouldn't be intuition. If you follow my thought process there.
I get it. But what do you say about someone who like constantly plays a lotto ticket? Like, I got this intuition that this ticket is gonna hit, right? But then they don't
not intuition, though.
But some people do have the intuition of thinking that they're gonna hit.
So here's the thing. I'd have to actually refer to the definition of intuition. But my understanding of intuition is you going based off, like we said, your past experience. And if your past experience is that you played the lotto and lost 100 times, why are you still going on your intuition? Your intuition, obviously,
exactly,
you're not paying attention to it. You're not really paying attention to your intuition. You're hoping, you're hoping and dreaming. You're not going with intuition.
Yeah, like sometimes just looking at the definition, like it's like a sixth sense. So that's why I said like some people feel like they have the ability to predict or see things, and it's just like you got to rely on your past history regarding your intuition. If you don't have a successful rate with it, then maybe you got to test it and see exactly poke holes in it and see whether or not it's sound judgment.
You tested to see if that gut feeling is really that gut feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that gut feeling only comes from experience.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you gotta see, like, if I go down this, my knowledge tells me, damn, why are you gonna walk down this dark ass alley by yourself with all the scary but I want to test my intuition and see, damn, I'm gonna walk down this alley, and now I'm starting to get that funny feeling that, damn, I should have just listened to myself initially. But I'm halfway down the alley now, and I'm getting exactly what I thought was going to
happen. No, we do not want to make fun of anybody who's been mugged.
No.
But it's just like, I'm not gonna lie, that happened to me. My intuition told me, stay off your phone when you walk down these streets. Sure enough, I didn't pay attention. And it's just like it led to what it led. I completely bypassed my intuition.
Bypassed, yeah.
It was just like, that's failure in judgment.
Failure in judgment.
It was just a failure.
And now you know.
now I know better. Or like you can even take it political. How many times you hear black folks saying, the Republican Party don't do shit for us, and we're just gonna vote Democrat.
Oh, dear God.
And then it's just like every election cycle, you get this fear mongered of like being fed into the Democratic plantation, but nothing gets delivered.
Nothing gets delivered.
Nothing gets delivered. You got Joe Biden out here telling people ain't black if they don't vote for him.
Yeah,
telling black civil rights activist leaders that I ain't gonna do anything for you.
Hey, Cash, but we really go after Dave Chappelle, huh?
Yeah, and we go after we go after Ice Cube.
We go after Ice Cube.
Yeah, we go after Ice Cube.
A dude telling us that we're not black. He's not even black at all.
Yeah,
we're not if we don't vote for him.
Ice Cube trying to tell us, you got to get something for your votes. You got cats sound like, who are you to jump the line?
Who are you to jump the line?
Yeah.
And why are you only writing for black men?
Why are you writing only for black men?
I know it say black people, but why are you only writing for black men?
So we get that all the time, man. That's another failure. As a collective, that's a failure. It's just damn.
As a collective, yeah.
What's the failure as a collective?
That we fall for the intuition of voting Democratic, thinking they're gonna do right by the black community. And
I
they
don't fall for that shit.
I'm just saying, as a collective. As a collective.
Yeah.
We're
saying, we were saying that Chappelle getting all the pushback, but Joe Biden ain't getting no pushback when he said we ain't black and we don't vote for him.
Yo, I'm trying to tell you, it's funny as hell to me.
Funny as hell, right?
It's funny as hell.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Where do we rank this book?
Oh, did we actually get through all the questions?
Oh, we could do more. I was trying to, save people time. I know Smith got to go to his nephew's wanted game. We did one question a piece at least. Okay. At least get into the ranking, and if Smith drops off later, it is what it is. But I just want to get everyone's rankings before, before people need to drop off.
I give it 3 out of 5.
Damn, I did not see that coming from you. All right, pros. I really did it. I thought you was going to give it a higher ranking, but go ahead. I want to hear why the 3 out of 5.
I thought it was a good book. I thought it was very interesting, but I felt like it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of dribbled on a little bit where it wasn't as effective. It just kind of dribbled on where it's like, all right, yeah, I get that. All right, could we get on to another point? Or could you give me a different antidote? you know, and he would kind of jump from one anecdote to another and come back to another anecdote. So it's like it kind of, I don't want to say lost me, but just lost my interest after a certain point.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't as concise as I would have liked it to be. You know, like the last book we read about alchemy, where he made his points somewhat concise, where he said, listen, you know, you can either have fairness or you can have diversity, but you can't have both.
Correct.
Because if you're trying to force diversity, you're not going to be fair. And if you're trying to be fair, you're not going to have diversity.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
So, should have been more succinct, wrapped it up with their, you know, repetitive, you know, anecdotes. Got it. Smith, what you got?
Yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, I actually liked the book, but after I think going into like part 2 or 3, I started fading off a little bit. I thought the content was good, but you know, the whole premise of the rethinking. One of the ones that I really did like was the Michelle Obama part, though, where he was talking about asking kids what they want to be when they grow up. And, basically kind of pigeonholing this student and saying, like, this is all you can be if this is what you're going to be. And you can't never rethink your decision. But we don't give half, so I'm giving it a 3. I'm going to give it a 3.
Wow. All right. We got 2 3s, a 4. I'm gonna give it. We don't give it half. I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm with Schubert in regards of I felt was a little bit more lengthy for the content. Because it felt like I got the point by part 2 of this book. I didn't necessarily need anymore unless he was introducing something new, but I did enjoy the epilogue, the series of questions that he gives you to ask yourself when facing rethinking when it comes to your career, your, you know, as Kelvin pointed out, to, you know, sensitive topics such as, like, you know, the pandemic, or even shit when I was watching the documentary 9/11, Turning Point 9/11 Wars. I was like, damn, all of these leaders should have had this book during this time, because the decisions that they made, and it really fucked us up as a nation. And I really feel like there should have been some rethinking during that process and not have this sort of echo chamber of thought. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I just think that if it wasn't, I think the latter part just felt a little bit redundant until he got to the epilogue. But yeah 4 out of 5.
The latter part, I think, like you said, after part 2, I think it was.
Yeah, you know, but I enjoyed the epilogue, though. I definitely did enjoy that, and those are actions that I'm going to try to apply for myself.
Yeah, I definitely have some things in it that I would be mindful of.
Oh yeah, same here. I think I'll definitely handle discussions quite a bit differently than I've handled, because, like, the funny thing is that one section where he was talking about how he talked to his friend and she's called him a logic bully. I was like, oh snap! And I had a
like, that's what I am.
Yeah, and I told my wife about it, and she busted out in hysteria because she was like, "That's you," and I'm like, "Shut up." She